let us start. Okay, so we're going to start with this beautiful Arcadian picture. Oh, I've forgotten to take the comments off. There we go. This beautiful Arcadian picture. There's quite a lot going on in it, but it's by the French artist Nicolas Poussin. It's from the mid-17th century. I think the date is 1657, 53, anyway, mid-17th century. And this is called The Birth of Bacchus. So today we're talking about the birth of Bacchus, and bloody hell, I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit of a story. It really is. Lovely, as I say, Arcadian scene. You can see over on the far left, there's a sort of a posse of nymphs. Nice, or the nymphs of Nysa, or the Nisiads, I suppose, but I prefer the nymphs of Nysa. And then you've got actually a few more nymphs in the centre here with this guy with a big red cloak. And I'm aware that this is quite small, so I'll do a little bit of a close-up of this. Here we go. And you can see that these nymphs are being handed a little baby. So essentially in this scene, what you've got is you've got a bunch of nymphs who are all nymphing about at their nymphy business, and they all get terribly excited. You can see, look, this one's looking over her shoulder at the group of nymphs on the left hand side who are all kind of reacting. Oh yay! They're terribly excited because this guy in the big red cloak has arrived to give them a present. Now, the guy in the big red cloak, you can see he's got a weird hat on. He's got a hat on with wings on it. So he is Hermes, or Mercury, the messenger to the gods. And so they don't often get a visit from him. So they're like, oh, what does he want? Well, he wants to give them a big present. And that big present is a little baby. And spoiler alert, the baby is Bacchus. Ta-da! Okay, other things in this painting. We have Pan up in a tree, so he's just above those nymphs, so he's kind of providing a lovely soundtrack to the whole thing because he is playing his panpipes. We also have, okay, wait for it, we have a dead body. We have a dead person right next to Hermes, and a lady who is very sad about the dead person, quite clearly, being studiously ignored by the nymphs and actually by us for the time being. We'll come back to the dead person. And then last but not least, we have maybe the key to this whole thing. We have an image of a guy in the clouds being given a drink. So this is Zeus, who's in the clouds. We know it's Zeus, by the way, because you can see over to the left-hand side of the painting, there is an eagle. And he's actually, if you look really closely, the eagle is on a bedpost. So Zeus has actually been reclining in bed, and he is being brought refreshment by Hebe, who is the cupbearer to the gods. Hebe is being especially solicitous to Zeus on this occasion because Zeus is in fact recuperating. What's he recuperating from? Well, he's just given birth to Bacchus. Yeah, he's just given birth to Bacchus. Okay, so keep that in your head. Here we are. Here is Zeus giving birth to Bacchus. Here he is once. You can see this reclining figure in the centre with sort of crown of leaves, he's actually holding the staff of Bacchus, so it looks as though it's got a sort of an acorn or something on the top, and there's this little tiny baby who kind of looks as though he's sort of coming out of his leg, also wearing a bit of a crown of leaves, being then received by somebody else. So this is on the side of a drinking cup. Again, we're back to the drinking cups. We can't escape the symposium at the moment, so Achilles, the drinking cup. Okay, so another image of Zeus giving birth. Here we go. Here he is again. And again, there's this kid who is on his lap, standing on his knees. So, yes, I think you kind of know what I'm going to say next. Bacchus was actually born out of Zeus's leg. Yeah. But, of course, there is a story behind this. So, Bacchus is the Roman name for the god of wine, the one that we kind of... I think these days it's in more sort of common parlance, Bacchus. But Dionysus, you've heard me say Dionysus before, that was the original Greek name for the god of wine. And Dionysus actually means, not literally, but sort of translated, means to be born twice. So, there's a backstory. Yeah, okay, there's a backstory. So we have all this lovely classical art here. It's all really quite undramatic, isn't it? Bacchus has just popped out of Zeus's leg, all quite normal, absolutely fine. And then we have images such as this one, which tells the backstory, or at least one of them. So you can possibly actually even recognise who the artist is without me saying a word. This is a painting by Rubens. I don't know the exact date, but judging by the woman on the bed, she looks very, very much like his second wife, Hélène Formant. So he married Hélène Formant in 1630. He was 37 years her senior. He absolutely adored her, and he painted her very often. So if you've got if you see a very curvy blonde woman in Rubens' paintings, then it's probably painted between 1830 and 1840 when Helen was modelling for him. In 1840 he didn't paint anymore because Rubens died. So this is the backstory, or the origins of the name Dionysus and of Dionysus or Bacchus's birth. Right. So in this image we have a lady called Semele. Now she is a mortal lady, and I don't know whether you can see this from the work, I'm sure Rubens certainly thought so. She was very, very beautiful. And the other guy, the other person that you can see in this work is Zeus. Once again, we know that this is Zeus, where he's looking really rather godly, and once again we have the eagle over to the left-hand side. The eagle this time has something in its claws, and actually Zeus has this, Zeus is sort of resting his hand on it, and that's a thunderbolt or a lightning bolt, which, so both the eagle and the lightning bolt are attributes of Zeus. So maybe, let's say maybe 7 months, 8 months before this painting, or before the scene in this painting, Zeus has spotted this very, very beautiful mortal young lady called Semele, and he falls absolutely head over heels in love with her. And of course, when he's in love with her, he has to have sex with her. There's just, there's no question about it. There's no two ways about it. So Semele and Zeus become lovers, and And they really have fallen for each other. And of course, when you're the lover of Zeus, you become pregnant pretty quickly. As ever, Zeus's wife, Hera, hears of this new love affair. She is insanely jealous. That's her kind of default emotion. And she becomes incredibly angry. So she thinks, right, this Semele is a mortal. Mortals can't really see gods in their purest form. It's too much for them. Everything is too intense. So she uses this knowledge and she goes to Semele in the guise of Semele's former nurse. Really, this is dark, this. And this is an etching from, or a print from the 17th century. It was the fashion in the 17th century, actually even earlier than that, but 16th, 17th century particularly, to illustrate Ovid's Metamorphosis. So this is an illustrated version from France of Ovid's Metamorphosis from 1677. So in this scene, Semele has dressed, Hera, Zeus's wife, has dressed up as Semele's former nurse, and she's looking really quite solicitous, isn't she? She doesn't seem to be too worried that Semele is sitting there with her boobs out, which she is. I can't explain that. I don't know why. It wasn't a fashion. It wasn't a thing, but she has got her boobs out. Never mind. Perhaps it's a sort of nod to the fact that Semele is sleeping with somebody else's husband, a naughty lady. But she says to Semele, look, I've been your nurse all my life, or your life, not all my life, all of your life, and I really, really care for you. And I've got this little bit of a concern for you, Semele. What I'm worried about is that, you say that you're sleeping with Zeus, but how do you actually know it's Zeus? How do you know that it's not just some other mortal guy who's pretending he's Zeus and, and basically tricking you into having sex with him? So the seed is planted. So then we go back to this image. So kind of, maybe 20 minutes before this scene here, Semele says to Zeus, she sort of runs her fingers through his hair, and she says to Zeus, darling, well, first of all, he wakes up, and she says, darling, would you do anything for me? Would you do anything I ask? And Zeus says to Semele, of course, I adore you. I'm completely in love with you. I will do anything that you ask. You know what? I swear on the river Styx, I will do anything you ask. Once you've sworn on the river Styx, you can't go back. That's it. Even for Zeus, even for the chief of the gods, you can't go back. So Semele starts to say, I've been thinking, and you might not be who you say you are, and so I just want to. And Zeus is like, don't say it. He realizes where she's going, and he's like, no. But she's a woman on a mission, and she gets the words out, and she says, I need you to reveal yourself to me in, as the god that you are. And he is devastated because he knows that this will kill her. He knows that seeing him in his purest form will be far too much for Semele to handle. But he has promised on the river Styx. And so this image is essentially Zeus quite literally blowing Semele's mind. if your lover is the king of the gods and also god of the thunderbolts, and you know, it's going to be pretty intense, and it was. So poor Semele dies. You can see in this image that she is fairly far gone with her in her pregnancy. So Zeus takes the little baby, and that's when he sews it into his leg. And so then we come full circle back to this image here by Poussin, where he has just given birth and Hermes delivers the baby down to the nymphs of Nysa, the Nysa nymphs, to bring him up. Still ignoring the dead person. Still don't know about the dead person. But there is one other version of the myth that might actually go some way to explaining the dead person. So there's the other version of the myth is that actually Zeus has a relationship with Persephone. Now, there aren't any images of this. I have looked. If anyone finds any images of this, then please do let me know or send them to me. But Zeus has a relationship with Persephone, who, by the way, is his daughter by Demeter, anyway. And Persephone has a child who is Dionysus. And Hera gets really jealous, and this is even worse than the last one, I think, possibly. She lures the baby. Like, she gets all the best toys, and she says, "Oh, little baby, come to me, come and play with the best toys." And the baby's like, "Oh, okay." And so he does. And as soon as he's kind of in her grasp, Hera sets the Titans on to the baby, and they rip him apart and eat him. I think that's a really horrible story against the Titans. I don't know whether it's true. The Titans, you know, I don't think that they were, generally speaking, sort of little or big cannibals, but anyway. So they tear Dionysus apart and they eat him, except for his heart. Zeus is obviously devastated, and he takes the heart and he implants the heart in Semele's womb. Semele carries the baby full term. She's not stupid enough this time to ask to see the real Zeus, and so she gives birth to Dionysus, and then Dionysus is then given to the nymphs of Nysa, because, I don't know, she's good enough to give birth to him, but she's not good enough to look after him, whatever. So that's the other version of the myth. And of course, if you take that version of the myth, then that means that the kind of born twice has a slightly different twist to it, because yes, Dionysus has been born, but then he's died and then he's been reborn. So maybe is the fact that there is a dead person in the corner of this painting to do with this sort of idea of birth, death, rebirth? Not entirely sure. We do know, however, that dead person isn't just dead person. This is actually Narcissus, because there are narcissi surrounding him, and he's by this pool of water. So obviously he's been gazing at himself. This is a completely different story, of course, and so therefore the lady lamenting Narcissus is Echo. Other theories as to why he was included, knowing that he's Narcissus, is the fact that the story of Narcissus and Echo follows on from the birth of Bacchus in Ovid's Metamorphosis, and Poussin did like a sort of a bit of an intellectual puzzle. He quite enjoyed the intellectual side of things, so maybe that's why dead person poor Narcissus was included in the birth of Bacchus. Yeah, but there we go. I went to, just as an aside, I went to the Poussin exhibition yesterday, no, day before yesterday. And look, this is what I discovered. So Poussin used to make, these aren't made by Poussin, these are made by somebody else, but he used to make little wax figures, or figurines, I suppose, and he would sort of model them, and he modelled them in the pose that he then wanted to draw them in. So he went from this brilliant way of doing things. I do know other artists that did this. I think Degas did it as well. I don't know to what extent though, but Poussin did it a lot. So from 3 dimensions then down to 2 dimensions, which is why so many of his works have such amazing kind of sculptural qualities to them. So I love that. So that's the main thing I learnt in the Poussin exhibition. I'll just show you, just as a quick finisher, I'll just show you, let's see, is there a photo here? Oh yeah, there we go. So there we go. There's me in the Poussin exhibition. You can see that it's quite, so this is the triumph of Bacchus after he's been born from Zeus's leg, with this whole kind of crazy sort of frieze-like procession. It's a cacophony of noise and movement, and it's brilliant. And obviously I love it. So there we go. Right. I didn't know I was going to talk about that, but I did. So let's just stop sharing now and go back to comments. There's a big spider that's just hanging off the back of my phone stand. Hello, spider. There we go. So there we go. Birth of Bacchus. Anyone surprised it was a weird one? I doubt it. I very much doubt it. I hope you enjoyed that today. I will, as I say, put it on to the website and put the video onto Facebook and what am I now? Instagram. And I'll do the blog, and I will see you next week when I think I'm probably going to talk about Silenus. So when Bacchus was born, he was brought up by the nymphs and then basically fostered by Silenus, who taught him all his bad ways. So there we go. We haven't had much gore lately. Sorry, I know. Well, it's a kind of a gory story, but artists have chosen not to depict, an actual exploding Semele. It's quite hard to do. They've chosen not to depict Bacchus or Dionysus being torn apart by the Titans. It's shabby, isn't it? I try and get some gore in. If any of you have got some good gore, then send it to me. Okay, send it to me, and I'll some nice festive gore, because we're coming up to the Christmas season. If any of you are in Bedford or near Bedford next Thursday the 18th, I'm doing a live talk there, so that's going to be great fun. That's in Amped Hill. It's in a pub called the White Hart. So that's the event starts at 7 o'clock on next Thursday. I will be back next Thursday morning though. And now I'm off to Bognor Regis for the weekend. Living the life. I'm actually not kidding, I really am. Not by myself. Okay, lots of love. Thanks for joining. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.